Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Well, for those of you that went to bed early or got up late or just actually tried to have a life over the last couple of days, the giant national drama has come to an end. We now have a Sino, a speaker in name only. Kevin McCarthy is spending his morning getting fitted for a straitjacket at Matt Gaetz's tailor so that he can take orders from the Freedom Caucus going forward. Now, this is the prevailing storyline. I think it's more than likely the reality. He obviously gave away the store to call himself a store owner. It's the weirdest deal-making thing we've ever seen. And for all the wailing and gnashing of teeth and freedom and purity speeches that happened on the floor of the House this week, and there were myriad amongst Republicans, especially from Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, she ended up being the first one to vote present and back away from the whole thing, and got nothing different from the day before when she was on Hannity and Stephanie Ruhle. Nothing changed. Nothing changed from that to her present vote. And then later that day, Matt Gaetz, who, because of the math, last night had to vote for McCarthy, refused to do so. So he voted present, but he's too stupid to know that creates math that made McCarthy lose again. He had this look on his face like, what? I didn't vote for Jordan. Like that was, I mean, if his brow could narrow anymore, it would squeeze shut. He looked, at certain points, he looked like Ren from Ren and Stimpy. Just, you idiot.
And somehow he looks like both Beavis and Butthead at the same time.
It's amazing. Yeah. I think that's why CRISPR-Cas9 must be regulated. But that law is never going to get passed by somebody who benefits from it. So, anyway,
by the way, the super chats are insane already. Hal Vickery,
oh my gosh,
the gate killing.
Hal
Lisa
Vickery,
Mia
thank
Moore.
you so much. Good Lord, Lisa Mia Moore, thank you so much. Thank you, Amy Connor.
Bobby
Thank you,
Brunswick,
Robert. Thank you,
Berkeley
Berkeley.
Dowd.
Oh, bless you guys. Thank you guys, and thank you guys for becoming subscribers on the Twitch channel. There's been a lot of people giving away, Shadow Woman in particular, and a couple others giving away subscriptions on Twitch as gifts to other people. And apparently, you can do that on YouTube now at infotainmentwars.com, which is something I didn't even know that had been triggered. They do these pilot programming things. Never mind. We'll talk about that later. Thank you. As in the immortal words of Joe Biden, thank you. So lots happened. Lots is still happening, by the way. This is the fun part. So last night, because Matt Gaetz doesn't do the maths, apparently he thought he could just vote present, and that would somehow just, that does it, right? I'm just not voting for the other guy. And they went, no, dummy. If two of you do it, it brings the threshold down one, but we still don't have the other person to vote. So he missed it by one. He got 216. He needed 217 with the lowering of the threshold. Two presents is canceled out by one vote. So they yell. There's a lot of yelling and screaming. At one point, Rep. Rogers from which Rogers was it? It wasn't Rogers from Kentucky, the one that wears a wig. Anyways, he lurched at Matt Gaetz like he was gonna punch him, and then somebody else. He was apparently saying something in the process that more than the violence that might have occurred. The person behind him was more concerned that his words would be seen or heard on air. He was more interested in covering his mouth than holding him back. Yeah, look, you can punch him, but just don't say that. And considering what Republicans consider offensive, which is almost nothing, and B, what they consider a line is, which is almost nothing, I could only think it was something that I think the only person in there that wouldn't have been offended by it is George Santos, and that's only because he wouldn't know if he was supposed to. So Lots going on. By the way, I want to say for the record that Kevin McCarthy got the Santos vote early and held on to it. So kudos to Kevin McCarthy for locking down the pathological liar vote. Now,
have you seen any of the walk and talk interviews with Santos where he's just getting berated about what his name is today?
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff.
What's your name today? Do you have any idea what you're doing? Are you pretending to look at your phone?
Right. Oh, totally. Well, he's the perfect candidate to guarantee the good liars, the comedy duo that interviews maggots, that to guarantee them a couple of years worth of great material.
Yeah.
Now, there are a couple of things going on that are materially important. And the first one I would like to get to is that last night, even though a couple of things happened, they were supposed to work out the math where just enough people would vote present and then just enough people would vote for McCarthy that would get him to that 217 number. And then Matt Gaetz voted present again. And the fix they came up with was not for them to try it again with McCarthy voting for, or Gaetz voting for McCarthy. They just ran it again, and all of the Freedom Caucus people, the hardliners, voted present. That was it. They just backed out entirely so that it was just big dumb math. They're like, it's got to work, right? We outnumber them as well. If any of the 20 that had been voting against McCarthy had joined them and just kind of not really done the math in their head, Jeffries would be speaker right now. This is how slapdash everything was last night. If they missed this mark, if somebody wasn't going, whoa, no, don't, that's it. And they held out to the end, like it was all drama. It's all about Gaetz. And by the way, huge target on his back right now from Republicans because they might play nice with him to try and get through this because they needed his vote and he was controlling this group. But he is absolutely done for. Like they are, everybody in that, it's all smiling and glad handing. And for all the Republican talk about how politicians are duplicitous and two-faced and blah, 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 they are literally demanding duplicitous, two-faced behavior from McCarthy right now against Matt Gaetz amongst the 90% that continually voted for him. Because those people are like, there is no way I held with you the whole time and you give my chairmanship or my seat on a committee that I earned because I've been here for, 7 terms to that little weasel. Like that's what this weekend's all about. So last night they get the vote. He squeaks by the way, never hitting 218. So there's never been a weaker speaker than Kevin McCarthy at this point because he's given away so much and he never even got the 218. It would be one thing if he had done that and it got him to that number. He gave it all away and he never did. That's amazing and historic, and that'll be one of the notes that will, the asterisk next to his name will always have that. The other thing is that after that was done, they're supposed to vote on a rules package. The rules package was the argument that the Freedom Caucus was yelling about the whole time. That basically you have to put 2 Freedom Caucus members on the Rules Committee so that basically they get to decide what legislation gets to the floor, not the Speaker. We've always heard that we got to get the Speaker to bring it to the floor. And you've heard this back and forth about how pressure on the Speaker to bring this piece of legislation to the floor. That's because the Rules Committee was basically just a scheduling committee. As long as it fit in the rules and varying little things about whether or not you can do this legislation before the next piece of legislation because this will have a fiscal impact on that stuff. And believe me, all the people on there will get bored of it or start grifting off of it immediately. But the reason why Nancy Pelosi and others have gotten so much pressure before about putting things on the floor is because it actually was them. They tell the Rules Committee, here's what I'm bringing. You guys make it happen. The opposite is now true. The Rules Committee will now decide what goes to the floor. There will be Democrats and Republicans on there, but 2 members of the Freedom Caucus have to apparently be on there. And from that, Kevin McCarthy will go, what do you guys want to do this week? That's his job now. And because it's 2 Freedom Caucus members, the answer quite often will be nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It will. I mean, the Freedom Caucus believes if there's a leak in your roof and you can't afford to fix it, the last thing you do is take out a loan and fix it to save your investment in the house. They don't understand that concept at all. They are hostile to it. I don't know which ones will get on there. I'm going to guess it's going to be
amazing
Perry.
they admit that they have a roof.
Right. Well, that's my analogy.
Yeah, there is no roof.
Yeah. But Perry, right, they all turn into my Uncle David. You know, how's your car running? I don't have a car. My Uncle David just denies reality in arguments. It's great. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, like
I don't know if I know about your Uncle David.
No. It's a long conversation. It's become my impersonation of my Uncle David has become a family tradition around the house. So we'll get into that someday. I'm teasing a character. I accidentally teased a character.
I'm just going to deny reality for a while.
It's what he does. It's amazing. It's incredible. But it's just like you want the chicken or fish? I don't eat food. We're not cooking. It's not dinner time.
Like it's 1948.
Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. So, anyways, we have to take a break. When we come back, I want to present to you a couple of options of things that could happen. And this is sports speculation kind of talk, but it is crucial to actually how things might be working out this weekend. Because last night, again, after they finished voting, squeaking him by to be speaker with 7 votes present, they still didn't have the votes to vote on a rules package. They had a rules package they worked out with the Freedom Caucus that apparently they were okay with, but they still have to vote for it. And if they have 60 votes on hard-line McCarthy people that won't vote for that rules package, where's that put the Freedom Caucus? It's going to get juicy. There will not be enough popcorn for 2023. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So I have a myriad of theories about what this weekend is about, because the wailing and gnashing of teeth all week long from the Freedom Caucasians and the Ever Kevins and the people calling him Cave-In McCarthy. There are all kinds of names. Sino Speaker, name really only. Good. Squeaker of the House. Thank you for that in the chat room. I've been running through this and going, now what? Because he's got the job. Now, the rules package that they're going to argue about contains the stuff that he negotiated with Lauren Boebs and Gates and that crowd. And in it is the part, the rules package, which has not been passed as the rules of the House, that one person can create a motion to vacate and kick him out of the seat or start the process of this all over again. And keep in mind, because it's about who's present, they could do it in an off week when there's 10 of them and nobody else is there. It's Looney Tunes. Like there is no fine print. It is just ridiculous. And so Monday, we have a scenario where McCarthy goes to the White House for a glad handing ceremony. But, Biden, like, welcome. I hope we can do some work together. I know things have been contentious, but we're all here for America. Glad handing, the stuff you're supposed to do if you're a grown up. And Boebert gets mad that he's meeting with Biden immediately and does a motion to vacate Monday afternoon. Like, that's the fact that that's a possibility is just stupid. And it's not democracy. It's not even minority rule. It's tyranny. It is literally, this is what they voted for. They voted for tyranny. One person, we fight a war with a king so that we can choose our leaders through a process and give them a time to do that job. And what are the Republicans fighting for? The right of one person to subvert the entire process, started all over again on their demands. And again, it's no surprise. They hate democracy. They hate it. It's a pain in the butt. That's why they like Putin and the like. Can't we have the illusion of democracy where our people just get fake voted in like Saddam Hussein every couple of years and we just do whatever we want, smoke a bunch of cigars?
We actually run by behind-the-scene threats.
Right. And so that rule, which is what they fought for, and no word, by the way, on whether it is 1 or 5 at this point. The idea is that it's 1, which is, again, lunacy. 5 is lunacy because that 5, why do you think they picked that number? They picked that number because they know they've got him, that they can pull together if anytime he doesn't do what they want, just them. He can do what everybody else wants in the entire Republican Party. But if he doesn't do what Gates, Gosar, Boebert, Perry, and Biggs want to do, that's it. They just yank the chain, start the whole thing over again, stomp their feet, same crap. 4 days of nonsense like this again, where to get one bill to the floor. Now, there's some good news. Mainly that Biden, when they thought there was going to be a red wave, they were like, this is going to be a pain in the butt. So let's just pass everything we can, get it done. And because we have the Senate, and we have a stronger position in the Senate, they effectively, the Biden administration is in a position where he can write executive orders based on the budget they've already passed, the omnibus, which is enormous, and will cover the rest of his term, if need be. There'll be some wailing and gnashing of teeth about the debt ceiling next year, but I have a possible scenario that would be hilarious that in the next block, because it's got a little bit of math in it, but if it happens, it would be just so choice. It would be so choice. So Biden can basically write EOs that are, as long as they're not violating the Constitution, will carry forward. And if the House tries to stop them, the Senate will protect them. The Senate will be where any of their reaction to it will go to die. And that's just true. They know that. The House knows that. And Biden, none of Biden's executive orders are need be anything that goes outside of constitutional bounds or even tests the waters. A lot of he's a meat and potatoes president. And so he's really trying, that's why infrastructure was so important. And he's going to hammer that for the next 2 years. Sure. There's infrastructure, this year is infrastructure year. Understand that's what a good portion of this is going to be about. And as things come up, what you're going to see, he's going to leave the House to fight over hurricane relief and stuff that comes up and make them look like idiots. While the Senate stands there with their arms crossed going, we have an emergency. Can you guys get your crap together? And then like that part of it is kind of gorgeous. But this 5-vote thing, this 5 or 1 vote thing, has not been ruled on, has not been voted in. And there's a huge question about whether or not they have the votes to pass the rules package that the Freedom Caucus are asking for. And now that he's in the seat, they don't yet have the rule to vacate him. The rule to vacate is sort of still, I guess, if it exists at all, 50% of your caucus right now. I don't know. I don't even know that there is anybody who tries to rise to vacate the seat would be out of order because there's not a rule to decide it. So in many ways, the next 2 days are the safest McCarthy will ever be from the Freedom Caucus. And if he can get Democrats to agree on the rules package, since he's already the speaker, that don't include 5 people or 1 people being able to vacate, or a guarantee in the rules that they won't bring a debt ceiling fight to the floor, without endless amendments or something like that, which would never pass if he had to get everybody else. Then their demands are dead in the water, and McCarthy and Boebert got played. Now, part of me, I almost feel like Nancy Pelosi is calling Kevin McCarthy and going, look, you do realize you can do this now. just letting him know that he doesn't have to acquiesce to these lunatics, and you'll be an actual speaker. But if you do give these powers to them, you're speaker in name only. You're the Squeaker of the House. That's the whole thing. And again, the problem with it being Kevin McCarthy, the challenge of it being Kevin McCarthy, is that he may not care. He has been talking to Ryan and Boehner, and looking at their vacation pictures and their investment portfolio after they were Speaker of the House and their speaker fees as former speakers of the House. He didn't care. He doesn't need the job. He just needs the title. And there's a lot of people on the Republican side that think the title is as good as doing the job. That's the problem they find themselves in when they try to legislate anything. They call themselves legislators or part of a legislation or part of the people's representatives when they don't represent the people as a whole. Myriad of times we can look at like how polling even in their own districts points towards Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, those kind of things, school funding, whatever, and they vote against it. So there's nothing in there that says these people have any interest in governing, and there's no reason why McCarthy is any different. He doesn't want the job, he wants the title. Now the fact that the title is, fake and embarrassing and stupid and all that gives him an out in that he can say, what can I do? I would do it differently, but my hands are tied by the rules committee because to get this job, I had to blah, blah, blah. So he's got an out now. He's got an exit strategy for failure. He can fail and it's not his fault.
Neat.
He's got the title. If they sweep the leg Johnny in the middle of, in the next 3 months or something to get mad at him and kick him out for doing anything remotely functionally bipartisan, he can declare he's not going to run again and then run to be head of the GOP next time or something.
It's funny you should bring that up because I just started watching Cobra Kai.
It's a good show with good people on it. Again, a lot of this predicates on the idea that we did not see a purity test for the speaker's seat by the Freedom Caucus at all. Ultimately, what happened late last night? Matt Gaetz sold his vote, or sold his non-McCarthy vote for a seat on a committee and a guarantee that he would have more say than he has earned in terms of mandate as a congressman. He wants national control from a regional job. And he got it last night. He got those two things through a backroom deal and at the last minute because he would just say yes. There was no purity to this. There was no declaration from McCarthy that he was going to do, everything that they said, and it's not on paper. Gaetz called it like negotiating a prenup on one of the shows the day before. Right. Except a prenup, you sign it. It's a contract before the marriage. The problem is they agreed on the prenup, got married, and now quite frankly, the groom or the bride can just go,
yeah, I never signed anything.
Yeah. What prenup? We're married. Mm-hmm. Tough. So this is, it will, like I said, there will not be enough popcorn for 2023. This is going to play out like the mess it is. And you either have a bunch of people who have no mandate nationally determining what gets to the floor of the House, or McCarthy's going to start blowing them off and going, I don't care. This was all a rope-a-dope to get the Trumpers to get me through the door. Once I'm in, I'm in. You can't get me out. I'm not going to agree to the rules that allow you to kick me out. So, because it's not me, it's them. He could pull the same plot on. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. I will just keep talking. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
That's the idea.
With 100% more Johnny Million.
We'll keep listening.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. By the way, it was Dave Foley's birthday this week from Kids in the Hall. And I wished him happy birthday.
We had him on the show a while ago.
That's right. And I said, happy birthday. Even with a goatee, he's still the prettiest kids in the hall in drag, which is true. And happy birthday. And he just said thank you. It just came up on my feed. It was lovely. It's so nice. Yeah.
And Phil will be on today, as far as
yes, he will. Absolutely. So
the rumors of his death are, how does that go?
Have been greatly exaggerated.
There we go.
You have to say it like Chuck Grassley wants to sound. What we have here is a failure to communicate. This is, first of all, I want to start with reassuring everyone. Like I said, none of the, other than like waste of time committee hearings, which they will, they'll be Republicans are going to get very mad that all the networks that carried the January 6th committee aren't carrying their Hunter Biden laptop weaponization of the DOJ, Ray Epps trials, right? It's not, they're not going to air. There'll be clips and they'll use clips and there'll be a back and forth and blah, blah, blah. But it's not going to, they're going to be really mad that it's not national news the way they hope. Because it's 2-year-old garbage, largely. But we've done, and I'll appreciate the programming because I can debunk it once again. Glad to do it. It's my job these days. But it's not going to amount to a hill of beans. It won't. Because what happens when a committee has a hearing about this where they want criminal charges? Johnny, what do they do? What have we seen, say, the January 6th committee do when this? What's the end result of what they do? What do they do?
So they'll recommend criminal charges, but it's still up to the Department of Justice to do anything.
That's right. They will refer, potential charges to the DOJ, and then the DOJ can act on those things. Now, whether or not there's no, I guess, basic legal reasoning that any of their stuff will carry any weight, especially the Hunter Biden stuff, because it comes from, like, the chain of evidence on the laptop would never end up, which is fake, by the way, would never result in a criminal prosecution of anyone. And if you tried to introduce it in a criminal trial, it would be thrown out. And anything that you even found because you thought you saw something on that would be thrown out as fruit of the poison tree. They've been trying to use that to protect Trump forever. I don't know why they don't see that with this hard drive that's been bouncing around in Rudy Giuliani's briefcase for 3 years since he went to Europe. And so it's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. That will never happen. Any first-year law student could get any of it thrown out. It's the simplest case you've ever seen. It's just goofy. So if it even goes to the DOJ, the DOJ is going, yeah, I can't do anything with that because you guys have been manhandling this and it'll never survive in court. Like, no jury will accept that as evidence because the day they do, Matt Gaetz is in jail, Donald Trump is in jail, Roger Stone is in jail, Steve Bannon is in jail. Like, all of their, even people who are on their side would immediately go, oh yeah, right, forget it. Never mind, my bad. So it'll be PR, and it'll never amount to a hill of beans. But in terms of legislation, like I said, the president can do a decent amount of work through executive order. It is limited. This whole, he could eliminate student debt with a stroke of a pen, lunatics. You're a crazy person, quit it. Because if any president could eliminate any particular debt from any particular group just because they prioritize it, if they could do that, our government would fall apart. Like, imagine, if you will, Ronald Reagan hearing from the budget committee and the Republicans, we can't afford the entire Star Wars system because the budget just won't handle it. And he goes, I tell you what, I'm going to zero out all the debt of any, military industrial complex related company. I'm just going to eliminate their debt, stroke of a pen. That's the same legal basis because I think it's important. I think it's for the national security. And under the national security, I can make that a decision. That's crazy. That's insane. And it would never work. So it's not going to happen. It takes stages. You're going to have to work like a real person. Please. But the president will be able to do certain things through executive order to cap on to the things they've already done. And like I said, 65 bills have been passed. That's enough for him to talk about, over a bill a week this year on the trail, meeting with people all over the place. Right. He can't legalize cannabis either. He can make an executive order having the DEA look into removing it from Schedule A and blah, 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 but he can't just stroke of a pen do it. It doesn't work that way. And we don't want it to work that way because if you get a Trump, imagine the power of that pen at that point. It's crazy. It's
Daphne in the chat said that she believes that there'll be an attrition of a slim majority in the Congress because it's so small now.
Yeah, well, that's a great point, and that gets us to the other aspect of like cross the aisle work to get things like the debt ceiling passed and those kind of things. Kevin McCarthy, if he knows at one point that they don't have the votes to do anything, to kick him out again, or that Democrats say, we'll help you pass the debt ceiling, if you pass the debt ceiling, if you go through with this, and they try to remove you as speaker, we'll have 10 of our people vote for you to remain speaker and zero out their votes. That's how it works. Bless you, Flora. And
you heard the cat sneeze.
I did, and I recognized it as a cat sneeze because I'm a cat person, as it were. So that narrow majority fixes a lot as well. So the McCarthy, now that he's gotten past this, if he has any brains or any desire to actually, which is questionable, again, like I said, look at who we're talking about. But I guarantee, even if he's not, there are people whispering in his ear right now. There are Machiavellian team players on the Republican side who are going, you don't have to give these idiots anything now because we don't have a rule they can kick you out.
Yeah.
And you can write the rules you want to rule, because you're speaker. They did it. You could play them, and then you can isolate them from this point forward, and actually be a conservative, and not have to have them rubber stamp everything you see. That honest to God, if he played it that way, it was giving him a lot more credit for a lot more brains than I think he has. And a lot more care for the job.
I'm looking at a picture of that dude's wig right now.
Oh, Rogers, right. It's spectacular.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It is just a solid saucer of hair.
I'm surprised it didn't get snatched during the Waffle House caucus fight on the floor last night. So,
Waffle House.
Samantha Romantic says, are we saying we don't think Kevin McCarthy is an honest broker? Here's the thing. It just depends on how much he's willing to, now that he's speaker, the reverse play, this is the reverse play, and I don't want to help these people any more than I have to, but if it means, kneecapping to some degree the Freedom Caucus, it's worth it. That all he has to do is pass a normal rule set now for himself. And he now can be, that group will hate him. That group won't vote for him, but they weren't going to anyways. He's a California congressman. He's not running for president ever. That's not ever going to happen. He knows that. His career path goes elsewhere. He wants to benefit financially from the outside of this, this body eventually. Like he just right out, day 2 of his, I'm leaving politics, and then speaker tours, and then, cash, and then, oh, by the way, in parts of the budget, we set a thing in there where 3 years from now, we're going to buy into this thing. So if you want to buy stock in something, I would recommend that. That's what you get. That's what the speaker's fee is for. So they pay people like Paul Ryan, John Boehner, and others to come speak and give a big speech, which is relatively nothing. And then you go have dinner, and at dinner you start whispering. And that's what he's hoping for. It's abundantly clear. So the reversal on this would be that he actually tries to be a conservative, where he tightens the purse strings and he's, tries to push, conservative legislative priorities, but ultimately screws the Freedom Caucus into the dust, into the dirt. Like makes them relatively irrelevant. And the problem the Freedom Caucus has is that they've based their entire initial worth and their side. I mean, there's been a bit of fighting this week about it, but on Trump, who is on a hard fade politically. Even this week, Boebert and Matt Gaetz and those folks, they, ultimately they worked their way into a way that they got to stiff arm Donald Trump and vote present for Kevin McCarthy. That's the current state of Republican politics.
Yeah, because he was pushing for McCarthy.
Oh, yeah, he was. And he never got him there. As a matter of fact, the Gosar and a couple others hopping over and voting for McCarthy for a couple of votes. Trump will try to take credit for that, but ultimately they all went back to voting present. That once they did it in lockstep, once they had an agreement, none of them voted for McCarthy like Trump told them to. And he was asking for it. He was saying you should vote for McCarthy, not present, not show up, not give him an out, not just let it happen.
Good job. Who knows? Maybe he'll even do a great job.
Yeah, right. Faint praise as an insult in terms of Trump. But again, waning power on his part, waning power on the Insurrectionist Freedom Caucus side, and the big test will be Monday when these folks have to vote on a rules package. The fight will begin again, because that's what they were fighting for, and that's what the 90%, and by the way, all of the Democrats were fighting against. So they don't, the freedom, while the narrow margin to, I think it's straight just volume count. Like it's a straight vote for the rules package. So it's not, he doesn't have to get to 218 or any of that nonsense again with it. It's just got to be a majority. And I mean, if he had any brains at all, he'd just go, you guys didn't vote for me. You voted present. Yeah. I promised you these things if you voted for me. And you didn't. You voted present. So I'm going to go with the people who voted for me, and everybody else who voted, is legit. So by weight, not volume. Thanks, Pop. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Philip Bittner will be joining us in the second hour to talk about Ukraine. Lots going on there, and certainly, a concern on their side about the KGB caucus headed by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gosar pushing back against funding. By the way, they're too late. We'll be back. I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So we were talking a little bit about the KGB caucus run by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar and those types that have been sort of pro-Putin, anti-Ukraine, pro-authoritarian, and what damage they can do going forward. Now, one of the areas Marjorie Taylor Greene has been talking about is auditing. We need to know where every dime of this money went in Ukraine, right? Okay, there's a reason why you want to know where you can eventually know where every dime went, and you can call some of it back or sue to be repaid if there was any graft and blah 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 after the fact, after a war. But the reason you want to know where it's being spent and where it's being sent by every dime on a nefarious level is because you can pick up the phone and say, yeah, the budget is this many HIMARS for this part of the country, this many, the missile defense system has been paid for, it will arrive on this date. As a spy for the other side, that's the information you need. It's to be completely frank, that's the biggest concern. Because auditing it, all they're going to find out is it went where it's supposed to go. The only danger of them doing an audit on where the money went is that that they make a phone call and tell someone where it went. Someone with operating in a nefarious way that has promised them riches or safety or the removal of some blackmail or compromise on them after the fact. That's concerning, right? So, but short of that, it won't amount to a hill of beans. The Ukrainians, not only through the funding that was already put in the omnibus and some other, and legislation passed earlier this year, are effectively funded equal to, just from the United States' support alone. And by the way, this money gets paid back. This is it's an investment or a loan. It is not just charity. So this money, in one way or another, comes back to the United States. Again, I remind everybody that in the bailouts in the 2008, that Obama and Biden negotiated and fixed, the U.S. taxpayer made money on the deal. There was a profit made into the Fed's coffers, ultimately. In the loans meant to stabilize the banks, we took in more money as taxpayers. It ended up being part of the launch of the ACA. So ultimately, she can audit all she wants. It won't matter. They're not gonna talk about the secret aspects of where certain military support is or any of that stuff in open committee, on camera, on C-SPAN. So who cares? The difference is there push about domestic terrorists, for example, going to keep the FBI and others from really keeping an eye on some of the less trustworthy members of the House KGB caucus, like Gosar and others. Not to get too, early McCarthyism about this, but it's a legit fear to have. Loose lips sink ships, and these dummies might actually say it to somebody they think is a friend. Mm-hmm. Honestly, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz are so stupid they could get catfished out of national security secrets. So that's the concern. Ultimately, though, it's not going to affect the next. Russia's going to collapse early in the spring if they last that long. And they're spending everything. They are shipping munitions to the front line on trains in open boxcars. They are just putting bombs in boxcars and they just roll around. They're not on pallets. They're not secured. They're not in crates. They're in these little frames like a piece of IKEA furniture, and they're just loose in topless train cars like corn.
No, all right, I'm listening. Topless.
Easy. That is not a sign that you are hashtag winning. So that Ukraine, while I'm sure they'll try to. The first thing we're going to do is blah, blah, blah. No, you're not. I mean, we're going to make a committee to do the thing or whatever. And let me walk you through how this works. You're a maggot. You're a run-of-the-mill MAGA supporter. You're hanging in there. You occasionally, whenever Trump has legal problems, you go down and tailgate in front of Mar-a-Lago. They don't let you in. But you drive back and forth, and makes you a little turgid and you feel like an American. And you throw all your weight behind true American firebrands like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who you're a little iffy about right now because she backed McCarthy from the start and started calling you childish or whatever. But anyways, I tried to just stay off those QAnon threads while this is happening. I don't need that kind of hate in my life. But I'm back on now that he got through. Never mind. Put it behind us. And then you watch as they, manipulate, cajole, and weasel their way into cabinet positions, into committee positions, by offering their vote or their non-vote to Kevin McCarthy, allowing him to be speaker. You're kind of on your heels at this point. Like, wait a minute. What ultimately happened? They haven't gotten a rules package as they got themselves committee seats for themselves. Like Matt Gaetz, apparently his holdout last night was for something on like the Armed Services Personnel Committee. That was he wanted that one in particular. So he could take pictures, by the way, you could go all over the country to bases and take pictures with recruits and say, we're going to take care of you, and then help him in his run for president later or something. That's what he thinks. I'm telling you. But we're back to being a maggot. You're sitting there and you're staring at this as it happens. And then on Monday, after the rules package hits a few snags and isn't exactly what you promised the Freedom Caucus was going to happen, Marjorie Taylor Greene later that day comes out and says, we're going to bring real accountability to blah, blah, blah. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to form a committee to look into the possibility of the structures of perhaps where these things may have gone. And obviously you can't make any promises, but I'm going to do right by the American. And at that point, you just hang up the phone. You just you're done. Because what is ultimately, until they, I guess, block the raising of the debt ceiling, what else besides committee hearings, which they've already had before, are going to convince you that they're doing what you want? Because the legislation won't line up with it. They're not actually going to get any bills passed that change the system structurally. They can't. And if they do, you'll hate them. It's hilarious. Again, the Republican motto is government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it.
And I'll show you, yeah.
That's right. And the funniest part sort of all of this is that these folks will abandon ship well before the debt ceiling fight or any kind of meaningful structural part of this.
Which ship?
The Republicans. They'll abandon their faith in all this and to try and get them back. What's the one thing that any member of the Freedom Caucus can do to try and get the angry maggots back on board? I stand now to demand a motion to vacate the Speaker's chair because I have lost faith in Kevin McCarthy and we need to have a vote again. That's the only way. That's the biggest PR stunt these people can pull.
That's a good one.
To get them back in line. Once they start losing faith and start running for the exits, that's the only way you can pull them back in. And it's going to happen monthly or quarterly if these people even care. But again, we are operating on the premise that any of these people are saying anything they actually believe.
Right.
George Santos is the perfect Republican. He is the defining Republican of the age. Used to be Donald Trump, the fake billionaire, who is now moved into his Howard Hughes, mason jars and growing his nails.
George Santos he's really done.
He's iconic. He is now move over, Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's a new sheriff in town. He's got a real
in town.
Yeah, he's got a real badge. We're at the hour, and we'll have Philip Bittner joining us in the next hour to talk about Ukraine, and I'm sure some of the impact of watching a bit of this as it rolled out. By the way, I just want to remind you as we go to break, Biden has nothing to worry about. The Senate will stop any kind of crazy, and a lot of what they're doing is PR, which they do anyways, and they always do anyways. Nothing has changed. They've literally built a box, crawled inside, and nailed the lid shut. Just enjoy your weekend. We'll be back right after this.
Shut up.